Hey folks, today you find me in the glamorous location of our garage, and I've got a simple but really important point to make about consumer product design, particularly if you've got a complicated product. So here is our trusty tumble dryer. I wish it were a washer dryer, but for various reasons, my wife wants to keep the old washing machine, so we end up schlepping stuff from one place to another. So by the way, hint number one, if you can get a machine that solves two problems in one go, and they logically fall on very, very close together, like washing clothes, what do you always do? You dry them. If such a thing doesn't exist in your market, or is not very functional, that's a good hint. But that's not the main thing from today. The main thing for today is this. Look at this panel. We got a bunch of different options. Look how many options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different options. Guess which one I always use? Eco. Why? Because I want it simple. I've got 4 options for how dry I want it. The one is hanger dry, and the previous one is like extra dry, and then the other one is iron it. I would argue that you probably need 3 settings maximum there. Then you got everything else. Timing, how long it lasts for. I don't even know what that does. That's the temperature, obviously. That's something special. Guess what I do? I use Eco. I choose the driest one, and I press on, and then I'm done. If you overcomplicate the user interface of any product at all, you are probably not adding value for anyone. And you probably think you are adding value because engineers love complexity and they love solving problems. And so did product designers. As you get very, very deep into a product area, you realize there are more and more nuances. And you think you're adding value by adding complication. I very much doubt you are. I think that you're very likely to be adding stress to a consumer's life. What they want is something that works reliably, is very, very, very simple to use, and gets the outcome they want. Now, okay, there may be a few different outcomes. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a few different options, but the reality is that your consumer is going to choose one or two of them. There's a good argument in favor of creating something very simple. Years ago, Anita Broderick, I think, the creator of the incredibly successful brand The Body Shop, said, and this was back in the 90s or the 2000s, right, when home computers were a relatively new thing. I think somebody should invent a computer which has 4 buttons, on and off, and I can't remember what the other 3 were. And she makes a valid point. Most computer systems, most domestic appliances are way more complicated than you need, right? I could take you indoors and look at the oven, but let's look at this. This is actually not too bad as interfaces go. But guess what? When my father-in-law turned up here, he's got an oven, an electric oven like this one. He put this on in order to put the oven on. But guess what that tiny symbol means? Grill. Well, first of all, if you're selling products to the UK, why don't you put English on them? There's this large language market for English language products, I understand. Like that might include England, Australia, Canada, United States. Right? It's not rocket science. So first of all, this tiny symbol is supposed to mean grill. And secondly, there are just even here too many options. If it's a half grill, I kind of get it, but it could be simpler and clearer, couldn't it? So again, it's more about clarity than too many options. And again, this whole oven timer thing. Everyone in the world who's got an electric oven knows there's a timer on it. I don't know anyone who uses it. Correction, my mum used to use it back in the 1980s. You know, she doesn't even own a microwave. I don't know anybody else. I manage a few properties that we let out, and every time I have to explain how to use the electric oven, because every oven has this, I tell them how to not use the timer, and it's always a nightmare. That's the example. Microwave, another example, right? What do I use? I use start and then stop, right? Why is that? Because do you know how to adjust just intuitively, take a few seconds to look at this. Do you know how to adjust the power, for example? It says so many things: microwave, combi, grill, cool, wait, time defrost. How many flipping functions are you trying to put in one thing? And how am I supposed to know what that means? It turns out if I press this, that might be the power. Oh, that's probably power. Does the word power appear on here anywhere? No. So even though John Lewis is a very good consumer brand, John Lewis as a retailer has been in business for well over 100 years, and they've been producing products for a lot of years, they're still absolutely, in my opinion, screwing up the very, very basic thing. So what do? I press start, and that's it. And then I stop and clear. Those are the 2 buttons I use. Guess what? In terms of product design, you could put the start button massive, couldn't you? And say start plus 30 seconds on confirm. You can have that much bigger than the waste of it. And then you can have a power knob that it actually says the word power on it. How about that for rocket science? So again, you think you got it right because you're wrapped up in your product, but you probably haven't. So guess what? You should talk to some consumers, not product designers, not your own marketing team, but people who are going to use your product, and then they can give you feedback. And you probably won't like the feedback because it'll say, no, I don't like your design. It's too complicated, or it's not complicated enough. But bear in mind, you're selling a consumer product you want to be used by an average person. It needs to be simple to use. You shouldn't assume an overly high IQ, but even somebody who has a high IQ, they're not necessarily going to bother reading the manual. Like I think my IQ is probably somewhere above average. I don't know what it is, but I haven't bothered reading the manual. I'm the sort of person that reads manuals, by the way, but I think I'm the exception to the rule. And I haven't bothered reading this manual. Why is that? Because I'm busy as hell and I don't have time. So don't make people a product which forces them to use it only by using a manual. Make it as idiot-proof as possible and simplify, and then simplify again. I promise you, this is not only true, but if you think of your experience as a consumer, you absolutely know what I'm saying is true. But as soon as we get into product design and development and marketing, we forget this truth. So just get back to being a consumer. And if you've forgotten how to be a consumer because you're too wrapped up in this particular product and you know too much about it, if I'd been selling too many microwaves for too long, I wouldn't know how ordinary people think about microwaves anymore. Go and ask them. Here is today's rant. Michael Vizier.